Bonjour, Wapshka Tiganame Biznikas, Makoando Dam. My name is Marcel Bananish. I am working with right now today with Eco Superior as a program coordinator. Being a program coordinator helps me understand more of the natural laws that we're trying to provide for climate change and for Lake Superior. Letter Bay is rich in education, in family, culture, and for language. We are so fortunate to have such beautiful sites as the Sleeping Giant, where we believe life exists where life started. That's in the eastern direction, and within our southern direction we have the beautiful Animki Waju, the Thunder Mountain, where the First Nation people of Fort William resides today. Within the Fort William Reserve, we began where we found treaties on how to build as a community. And within the western direction, we have the beautiful Kekabeka Falls. The Kekabeka Falls became a major route within all nations. It brought people together through building of canoes, through the building of relationships with other nations. And we cannot forget the northern direction where all the waters came down and fed into our lake systems and river systems.
Bonjour, bonjour. Minogisi kanekwe nandishnakas, anemiking nandoji, makwadodo. My name is Beautiful Day Woman, and I come from the area around the Thunder Mountain. And I am from the Bear Clan. I wanted to share a little bit of my story with you and the connection to this river. My mother's family comes from Fort William First Nation, and when she was a little girl, she used to swim in this river where Fort William First Nation is now. They also used to take food out of the river, and they would get great big sturgeons. We can no longer do that where our reserve is. The water doesn't freeze because it's downstream from the mill, and we certainly wouldn't eat any fish out of there as well. Even beyond my mother's age group, my great-grandmother used to set up a little shop just outside of the train bridge that crosses from Fort William into Thunder Bay. And back then they had a boat that they would paddle back and forth like a ferry to take people to town. And she would sell her baking there. My great-grandmother, they actually used to canoe down to Grand Portage from Fort William, from Squaw Bay, to go to square dances. And they would actually go down on the big lake. So that was their major form of transportation at that time. They also would pull up a big boat to the dock on the Cam River, and my mother would go out on the land onto the big lake for weeks and weeks at a time, and they would just go from island to island fishing. That's how a lot of our community members made their living back in the day. So originally our reserve was to go from the Welcome Islands, Pie Island, Mission Island, and it would have gone all the way to Kekabeka Falls and then out to Sturgeon Bay. Slowly over time, the land became encroached and became smaller and smaller to what it is today. Unfortunately, so much of the land that Fort William First Nation has along the river, there's horrible chemicals that are buried in barrels along the river. There's industrial businesses there now, a train track, a bark dump, and there's also hydro transmission lines that are put on the reserve as well. So you can imagine how unhealthy that land is. My grandfather, who has since passed on, he remembered being a little boy and people still living in tents along the river. There used to be farms along the river. There used to be a school and a nunnery, and eventually it was pushed back so that they could put the railway on. So at this time now, that chunk of land, it will never be returned back to reserve status because it is so dirty and so polluted that it would cost the government too much money. They do keep an eye on it and monitor what's buried there and what leaches into the ground. So just some history for you, and to think about all these different generations that relied on this river and their experiences and how much they've changed. From my mother swimming in the river and going down there to wash because they didn't have running water, to today where the river doesn't even freeze anymore. Thank you for listening to my story. Miigwech.